What is up, everyone? Welcome to the FAA podcast. Happy free agency frenzy. And it has been a frenzy. Before we talk about that, I want to say congrats to the U.S. women's national team last night. Awesome win. Awesome win in the Gold Cup in San Diego over Brazil. 1-0. It was a tough match all day, but Lindsey Horan, love her. She's awesome at headers. Headed one in with at the 45+1 mark in the first half, and then we got a second goal in the second half, but it was called offside, so it made it a lot tougher at the end. And then I thought they were going to screw us like they did in the Canada game in the semifinal, where they gave Canada a penalty kick that they scored right before regulation ended, and then we won it in extra time or in penalties. But anyways, let's talk about free agency, because that's what the breaking news is. I don't know where you want to start. Let's start with the big one. Kirk Cousins, your guy.
My guy.
Your guy no longer.
Hey, I mean, he's still my guy. I still love Kirko chains.
4 years, $180 million deal, $100 million guaranteed with the Atlanta Falcons. That gets two. That's massive. Biggest deal of the day, as quarterbacks usually do.
Yeah, I mean, I was prepared as a fan to be like, all right, 2-year, $85-90 million contract. I'd be willing to do that fully guaranteed for Kirk. Still draft the QB of the future and kind of just see where it goes. But once I saw he was going out to Atlanta, I was like, oh, that's a bummer. But then I saw 4 years. I was like, oh. Little bit me was very shocked. Although, if you read the contract, we were talking about it before the show. In reality, it's more like a 2-year deal. 100 million of it is guaranteed. 90 million of that 100 million is guaranteed within the first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
10 million is guaranteed in year 3, and 0 money is guaranteed year 4. So more than likely, they will probably renegotiate in 2 seasons. But yeah, if I saw that on my timeline as a Viking deal, as much as I like Kirk, I think Kirk is the best Viking quarterback of the 21st century, probably top 3 or 4 QB in our franchise history. I that would be a tough pill to swallow for a QB coming off a pretty tough Achilles injury at 36 years old. Hey, good for him. I think this is a great pickup for Atlanta. I think you finally have a QB that actually knows how to throw the ball and read defenses.
Mm-hmm.
This is the closest they've gotten to Matt Ryan since Matt Ryan left. And I think Matt Ryan is genuinely a really good comp. So, yeah, I think this is good for all parties. I mean, shout out to Kirk Cousins' agent. I will try to contact him because I definitely want him negotiating on my behalf for the rest of my life. But good on Kirk for getting the money that the market said he deserved. Good for the Falcons getting on a QB. Which is a position of desperate need for this team, and hey, good on the Vikings for standing their ground and having a vision and not giving in just because Kirk Cousins has been here for 6 years.
Yeah, I think it's a nice deal. 45 was the number that you said would have been a 2-year 90. That's actually what it ended up being at 4 for 180 is 45 a year. But yeah, I think if he got 50 at signing. So yeah, the getting out after 2 years definitely an option for Atlanta. And it makes sense schematically as well. Kirk going to another Sean McVay disciple in Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator for Atlanta now. and Raheem Morris, the head coach, also a Sean McVay guy, being from LA last year. Both guys coming over. So yeah, I think it's going to work. He becomes easily the best quarterback in the division. I would put Kirk Cousins first. People are going to put Baker second, I think, but I think Derek Carr second, Baker third.
No, I got to disagree. It's Baker. I mean, I think Derek Carr had just a horrendous season. I think if he plays up to what he was, at least kind of prime Raiders, he's better than Baker. But from what we're seeing, I don't think he's better.
Yeah, well, we'll see. As Logan and I both had the Saints in the NFC Championship game in our picks last year.
You guys are insane for that.
The other, I guess we'll just talk about the $300 million deals, and then we'll talk about maybe one or two other big names that we know numbers wise.
Definitely should cover, our teams as well, Vikings and Eagles and Pittsburgh signings.
Yeah. So the second $100 million deal in terms of free agency anyways, I think we'll save the Chris Jones talk for a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about all the re-signings later. But the second $100 million deal today, the Raiders making a splash. Dolphins defense tackle Christian Wilkins going to Vegas, 4 years, $110 million. 84.75 million guaranteed there.
This was a guy I wanted the Vikings to get real desperately.
Yeah. It's interesting. I read a little blurb of free agency grading thing on Wilkins there. And I didn't really agree with it. It gave the Wilkins deal, I think, a B or maybe a C plus, something like that. Just because whoever wrote that said, he's more of a run stuffer. I don't think so. I mean, I'd have to check the stats in terms of sack numbers in his career. But I think I really like Christian Wilkins. I think he's an interior disruptor with some pass rush upside as well. So, yeah, 20.5 career sack. He had 9 last year, though. So.
And he's doing it as an interior guy.
Right. But he's getting paid at the top of the market, near the top of the market. I believe it was 27.75 or something like that per year. So yeah, 27.5 per year. So under, what some of the other guys got, but I like it. We put Johnny Newton to the Raiders in our mock draft today. And I said, that was an area of need. They needed some interior help to go along with Max Crosby, Tyree Wilson on the edge. So going to be tougher to block Max Crosby, as someone said on Twitter today. And I like it.
I really do. As I mentioned, I really wanted the Minnesota Vikings to get this guy. We've had a lot of interior defensive line problems over the last couple of years, and Wilkins just seemed like the perfect fit. I would have loved it if they signed him to this deal. I mean, Raiders, other than Max Crosby, that defense has always been just kind of a massive question mark, and getting Wilkins, I love the term shit wrecker. And that's what I think when I think a duo of just Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. These are just a couple of shit wreckers. They're going to get to your quarterback. You're not going to be able to run the ball in their direction. That's a very, very good foundation in the trenches for the Raiders, who basically since moving to Vegas has just been Max Crosby and a bunch of scrubs.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this during our Mock Monday show there. Tyree Wilson, rookie season, not the greatest, just 3.5 sacks. So they need improvement in year 2 from him. And again, this is another guy that'll help both of the ends getting attention inside so they can have more room on the outside there, hopefully, is what and if not, that's fine. Max Crosby will give Christian Wilkins opportunities.
Oh yeah.
And they're gonna have to figure it out. But I think definitely he's gonna help Tyree Wilson for sure with those two on the line, take pressure off of him to produce as much. And then the other $100 million deal that was handed out today, my Panthers getting Bryce some help finally. They have given him a lineman up front, signing Dolphins guard Robert Hunt, 5 years, $100 million, $63 million guaranteed. That's the only deal that has been given out today that's been more than 4 years. And I like it. Robert Hunt, excellent road grader in the run game, which is what the Panthers, I think, want to try to focus on. To help Bryce, they need to run the ball better. With Miles Sanders, who I don't know why they're still keeping him, and Chuba Hubbard. But yeah, I love it. He's an excellent blocker up front, and especially with a shorter quarterback, you need the interior to be sound.
Yeah. And not only that, he's a fantastic receiver.
Yeah, go check out Field Yates's Twitter to see what Jimmy's talking about on that one. But yeah, love that one as well. Other big names getting signed elsewhere in free agency. Let's go to my Eagles. Saquon, I talked about this on the Mock Draft Monday show. I told you, we need to bring him home, and he is finally coming home. Number 26 in a Philadelphia. He's going to be wearing one of these this year. Kelly Green Saquon is going to look fantastic. And like I said, dude, he was probably, I don't know if he was my favorite. He might be my favorite Penn State player I've ever watched. So to bring him home to Philly, 3 years, 37.75 million, 46.75 max value, 26 fully guaranteed. It's a lot. It's a trend shifter for the Eagles' philosophy, where they traditionally haven't paid running backs ever since, I think the last one they really paid was LaShawn McCoy. Mm-hmm. But I think it's worth it. I know he's older. He's in his 7th season now, and it's a risk, but I think he's going to like it. I think the Eagles' offense elevates running backs. 2 years ago, Miles Sanders was 5th in the NFL in rushing yards. Last year, DeAndre Swift, 5th in the NFL in rushing yards as well. Saquon's a better back than both of those guys. So it's going to be interesting to see what Kellen Moore does with him in the offense and using him as a receiver, which I think is much needed. The Eagles haven't thrown the ball to the backs the last couple of seasons at all. Saquon's an excellent receiver out of the backfield. I think Kellen Moore needs to do that a lot, utilize his receiving ability because he is one of the best dual threat running backs in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. This is, again, another guy I really wanted the Vikings to get. And all I have to say about Saquon is get ready to get a couple handfuls of Jalen Hurts' ass, buddy, because you're going to be on the back end of that tush push with those tree trunk thighs, and they're going to expect you to push.
Yeah, I mean, and can you imagine the brotherly shove was already electric. Obviously, now you have Cam Jurgens instead of Jason Kelce. But dude, Saquon's legs are bigger than Jalen Hurts's.
He's going to throw him
Like,
over that line. He's going to get a couple hands on them cheeks and throw. Like it's gonna be a 5-yard game.
I mean,
It's gonna be great.
you might as well have just Saquon snapping the ball to Jalen because
Honestly,
like they're them two together. I think combined they can probably I'm sure both of them combined can probably squat maybe 1,300 pounds.
yeah.
So,
I mean, we've all seen those videos of Saquon just like squatting 650 with ease, and it's like, damn, how's this man do it?
yeah, and it's gonna be, can he stay healthy? But I'm okay with that. It's fine. The Eagles have been pretty healthy the last couple of seasons. Other one, what else are we going to talk about? Big news.
We could go with the former Eagles running back. Moving on.
We'll save that. I don't think there's really any other like big names that I can think of to like talk about right now anyways. So
no, I'm trying to think of any.
let's just roll through it here. Let's get to the regular news.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the UFL here. Retirement in the UFL. Great career. Stallions running back Bo Scarborough has retired from football. The graphic that I saw on Twitter was excellent. This man is so decorated throughout his career. I think he was a 3-time national champ at Alabama, maybe just 2. But they made the CFP, I believe, in all 4 years he was at Alabama. And then he gets drafted. Didn't really work out in the NFL, but 2-time USFL champ with the Stallions the last 2 seasons. Excellent career there. 2018 7th-round pick for the Cowboys. And 2-time college football playoff national champion in 2015, 2017. So, yeah, pretty solid. What?
Congrats on his career.
Yeah. And in the USFL, it was, I don't know, Black Sunday. We have Black Monday in the NFL, the Monday after the regular season ends. I guess Black Sunday, because this happened, I believe all these cuts happened yesterday. So the cut down to 58 was really tough. A lot of good players lost their jobs, which we knew this was going to happen, though. Like the merging of the leagues, there's less opportunities. There's only so many roster spots, but hopefully all these guys can find a spot somewhere in another league. Or, they'll get a call from the UFL like during the season once injuries start happening. But here's my key guys that were cut from each team. We'll start off with the 4 XFL division teams. The Renegades, the defending XFL champs, they cut linebacker BJ Bello, running back Morgan Ellison, wide receiver Matt Landers, quarterback Drew Plitt, which was a big one, offensive tackle Tayton Saltes, tight end Jared Scott, and linebacker Jordan Wright. My DC defenders cutting a bunch of wide receivers. Wide receivers Isaiah Coulter, John Hightower, CJ Johnson, and Trey Shropshire. Defensive tackle Boogie Roberts and corner Adam Sparks. The Brahmas, they cut kicker Matt Amendola, which means Destroying is the sole kicker on the San Antonio Brahmas. So it seems like he has won that job there with San Antonio. Also cut by the Brahmas, defensive end Drew Beasley, wide receiver Cody Crest, linebacker Omari Cobb, center Evan Heim, defensive end Jason Luan, your guy. Cut by the Brahmas.
Sorry, my guy.
Corner Ryan Lewis, corner Mac McCain III, running back Jalen Samuels, and Kurt Warner's son, Cade Warner, the wide receiver there, cut in San Antonio. The Battlehawks really didn't have a lot of big name cuts. A couple, though, safety Anthony Chaffee, defensive end John Daka, and kicker Andrew Mavis. My Memphis Showboats, the first of the 4 USFL division teams here. Defensive end Jordan Brailford, corner Antoine Brooks, wide receiver Derek Dillon, which was a big surprise for me. He was a monster last year for Memphis. Linebacker Colin Hill, offensive tackle Darda Lee, corner Will Likely, linebacker Dylan Moses, defensive end Jeremiah Valawaga, wide receiver Josh Van, and running back Kareth White. The Birmingham Stallions, a lot of cuts for them. Knew this was going to happen with them. They just kept adding talent this offseason. It was like, bro, like every time we had a big signing for them, I was like, dude, like they got another guy with Birmingham. Like they were already good, and they even got even better. So knew there was going to be a lot of good players coming from them. So cuts for them: guard Calvin Ashley, corner Terrell Bonds, safety TJ Carter, offensive tackle Larnell Coleman, fullback Bobby Holly, linebacker Traven Howard, wide receiver Chris Lacey, defensive end Hercules Mataafa, corner Mark Milton, quarterback Jalen Morton, corner Channing Stribling, which I think was the biggest surprise for me on them. Stribling pretty solid for them last year. Defensive end Curtis Weaver as well, former 5th rounder of the Browns. The Roughnecks, they cut kicker Luis Aguilar, which was a massive shock for me. He was a monster last year with the Philadelphia Stars, kicking that field goal, or that game he had 8 field goals in, which tied the single game football record with Rob Baronis, former Titans kicker there. Defensive end Isaiah Chambers, running back Ezra Gray, defensive tackle Reggie Howard Jr., tight end Ryan Izzo, corner Jeremiah Johnson, running back Shamari Jones, running back Ryan Nall, wide receivers Watt Fillier and Teo Redding, and linebacker Kalen Tolson. And finally, the Michigan Panthers, they cut wide receiver Lance Lenore, quarterback Brian Lewerke, safety Shalom Luwani, which I was super surprised about the safety cuts that they had, because they also cut safeties Corey Rahman and Warren Saba. So those three were Saba and Rahman were integral parts of the Panthers defense last year. Luwani was a beast with the New Jersey Generals the last 2 years as well. Also cut by the Panthers, wide receiver Garrett Mogg and kicker Cole Murphy there. And a couple other transactions in terms of the UFL. The Brahmas, they claimed wide receiver Matt Landers off waivers from the Renegades. And the Battlehawks, losing a key piece to their offensive line, Sage Doxtater, the offensive tackle, placed on IR. So that's 2 key pieces for the Battlehawks. Remember, they lost Ja'Cour Pearson the other day for the foreseeable future. So we'll see when those 2 guys can get back. Just one thing in college football, I saw this while on ESPN app. Arizona State quarterback Drew Pine, he has transferred to Missouri. So interesting decision to do that. Brady Cook coming back for the Tigers this year. So there's not a starting spot available for Drew Pine. But he's kind of had a weird career. You know, started a few games at Notre Dame, didn't work out there, transferred to Arizona State. You know, played a little bit, wasn't really great. Now he goes to Missouri. Maybe he can learn something behind Brady Cook this season. Let's go to the trades. We had 2 go down this week in between shows. The Browns getting another wide receiver after they traded for, Elijah Moore, and now they traded for Amari Cooper a couple years ago. Now they make it another wide receiver they trade for. Jerry Jeudy coming over from the Broncos, 2024 fifth and sixth round picks, number 135, 202, going back to Denver in this deal. And it made sense. We've been talking about it for like a year and a half now. Which are the Broncos going to trade one of their receivers? They finally do, and it makes a lot of sense for both teams. Elijah Moore kind of underperformed last year after the trade to Cleveland. They really needed a second fiddle for Amari Cooper for a couple years since he's been on Cleveland, really. So hopefully now they can get that guy with Jeudy.
Yeah, I think this is a great trade for Cleveland. I mean, you get a former first round pick who, although not flashy, is very efficient, has done his job. And trades like this just remind me, Chase Claypool was traded for a second round pick. The Browns have gotten like Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and now Jerry Jeudy. Now, let me just make sure.
A third for Moore, though.
Yeah, they acquired Moore and a third for a second round pick.
Yeah, second.
So they got Moore and just traded back, and then Amari Cooper was
it was a fifth.
It was just a fifth. So the Browns essentially got their basically top three wide receivers, because I think if this trade you put Elijah Moore at the number 3 position, which I think is more his speed. You've gotten your top 3 wide receivers for 2 fifths, a 6th, and a 7th while receiving back a 3rd. That's incredible asset management. Like, Amari Cooper looked amazing last year, especially when Joe Flacco was QB. Yeah, Elijah Moore struggled in his first year in the system. I chalked that up to Moore. He was kind of traded late in the process. Like, when was he traded? Oh, I know that was in March. But yeah, it was just a weird fit, especially just trying to find like a position for him, because I don't think he's a number 2 wide receiver. I think he's a number 3 wide receiver. I think that's just natural where he fits. But yeah, I mean, this is great asset management for the Browns. You got your top 3 wide receivers without paying more than a second round pick. Like, that's absurd. And for the Broncos, I mean, you got what you needed for, in this trade. You got what you could. It's not great flipping a former first round pick for 2 day 3 draft picks, but you get what you can get.
Well, the Broncos, this was a money deal for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the picks were so low. They needed the cap space in order to work, which they have done a couple deals now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's a solid trade. The only thing with Cleveland, though, they now only have 5 picks this year in the draft. So that's a tough one. But we can get a starter. And I think it's also tough for Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a first round pick, but again, the wide receiver class this year is loaded. So one of their second or third round pick, that's where I could have seen Cleveland going after a wide receiver. Hell, they might still. But yeah, I think that's the only caveat I have for Cleveland. I like it for Denver. They get 2 picks. They get the cap savings.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And the thing with the Browns, I will say this, it really is just a make or break thing with Deshaun Watson. Like, in my opinion, if Watson is what he was advertised, I think this team makes the playoffs. I don't see a significant weakness across the roster. You're just hoping Nick Chubb comes back fully healthy, and you're hoping Deshaun Watson comes back fully healthy. But I think they look at this draft and go, okay, there isn't a spot on the roster where you could say, I definitively need a starter day one. Maybe safety is probably the best, like the most likely position where they would need a starter. But they've drafted really well recently, especially without having a first round pick. So I don't think the Browns would be overly concerned about losing 2 day 3 picks. especially if they just have the mentality of we got a good roster, we should be making the playoffs. We made the playoffs last year without our best running back and best and starting quarterback. I mean, if Deshaun comes back healthy, and now we've given him another option in the receiving route. I mean, I think this team fancies themselves as not just a playoff team, but maybe a team that could, fight for the division, maybe make a this may be bold, make a conference championship. So when it comes to draft picks, it's like, all right, we still have 5. We can still draft for depth, but I think they have the mentality as whoever we draft, we're not going to expect them to start day one.
Right. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go to the second trade to talk about here. It is a quarterback. Mac Jones going to the Jags from the Patriots. God, I wish that would have been the Tom Brady pick, though. Number 192, a 6th rounder to the Jags. So, yeah, why not? I think it's a good option for Mac. I think he's going to get a chance to reset his career. Mm-hmm. Learn from a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence.
And a good quarterback coach in Doug Peterson.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think that's going to do wonders for Mac's career and the possibility of, getting a better deal eventually somewhere else once he sits under Trevor for this year.
Yeah, I saw some great tweets that said, "Oh, finally Jacksonville got their starter." But yeah, I mean, what's better than one young QB with pretty solid, repertoire? Basically just 2 QBs. One of them is I see Mac Jones very much as just Trevor Lawrence light. If Trevor Lawrence goes down with injury, which he has in the past, you just put in Mac Jones. It's like, all right, he's just the diet Trevor Lawrence. He'll run the offense similarly. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just good for Jacksonville, and for the Patriots, you're just thinking, okay, let's just get something for Mac.
Yeah, it's in the 2021 class is really interesting right now. Because you have 2 quarterbacks that have already been traded. Why am I blanking? I know the 3 quarterbacks in the top 15. Why am I blanking on the 4th guy? The other guy that already got traded.
Trey Lance?
Yes, that's right. That's because he's the least effective of all 4. But yeah, so you have 4 quarterbacks that went in the top 15 of the 2021 draft. Mac Jones is traded now. Trey Lance was traded last year. And the other 2 could possibly even be traded with Zach Wilson and Justin Fields as well. So the 2021 class really did not live up to the hype in terms of the top quarterbacks in that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. QB draft classes are always very hard to gauge when you go into it because every team will overvalue a QB no matter what. So if there's like one very talented QB in the draft class, every other QB in that draft class is immediately just going to shoot up just because, scouts and media will just start going like, oh, wait, like this is a top guy, but this QB does this a little bit better. So like, oh, he should be considered. And then it just continues to snowball. And I definitely feel that's what happened in 2021. Just every QB I feel like in that draft class did something slightly better than another QB in that draft class. And that just constantly started the cycle of like, these guys are constantly going up the draft boards because teams always need a QB. And there's always a narrative that, this guy's got the tools. Oh, but this guy's got the potential. Oh no, this guy's the prototypical quarterback. And it constantly hurts a lot of young QBs that will have these expectations placed on them that they don't deserve. And I think Mac Jones was also a prime example of that, and a lot of QBs in the 2021 draft class We're the definition of that. Trey Lance, he was a prototype. Don't understand why they put so much pressure on him. Justin Fields was a prototype. Mac Jones was very much a project that needed some refining, but just had good fundamentals. So yeah, it's hard to see teams ruin drafting quarterbacks.
Yeah, I don't know if Mac Jones gets drafted in the first round if Alabama didn't win the national championship that year.
Yeah, he definitely gives me Will Levis vibes. And honestly, Will Levis was drafted in the correct round. I don't know why it was such a big deal that he was dropping, because I always saw him as a second round QB.
Because of his arm.
It was his arm, because scouts and the media will always fawn over a rocket arm. It's like, oh my God, he could throw the ball 65 yards in the air. It's like, cool. Can he put the ball in the basket for a running a wide receiver running a slant route 5 yards up? Can he get to his second read? Can he read a defense? Can he know when to abandon the pocket? Can he know when to stay in the pocket? It's just, they'll see rocket arm and be like, oh, we can make something out of this.
Yeah. So let's move on to the other general stuff here. The Eagles having trade discussions about defensive end Josh Sweat. Now, with their moves today, it's more than likely Josh Sweat or Hassan Reddick, both or one, get moved, which I'm perfectly fine with. I think it's good. Good job by Howie. He saw the decline of the pass rush in the second half of the season, not really effective. Josh Sweat, someone I really would have liked to keep over Hassan Reddick because of just the age difference. And I think Josh Sweat has worked himself into more of a starting role. But they need Nolan Smith, their first-round pick last year, to step up this year into a starting role. So I'm okay with it. Eagles need draft picks anyways, even though they did get a couple comp picks. So, yeah, I'm fine with Sweat getting traded, especially if you can get a decent pick for him, like a third or a fourth. What up, Logan?
Hello, gentlemen. How are we doing?
How is your free agency frenzy going, sir?
Dude, I am on cloud nine right now, man. There is so much happening. It's so hard to process. But I'm loving it. Loving every second of it, man.
Did either of you guys have anything on the Sweat trade talks with Philly?
Nothing really to note. I'm checking Twitter and seeing if anything has come up.
Oh, I'm writing them down, Jimmy. I got them.
My guy. I appreciate you. The thing is, it feels like such a loaded defensive line, and just trenches in general, free agency class, that I really don't know where Sweat lines up with other free agents. Like, he's not better than Danielle Hunter. Like, he's going to have to fight with like Danielle Hunter to get a contract, and it's going to be very difficult for him and his agent to be like, hey, pay me Hunter money. It's like, I don't want to.
Well, I think the D tackle class was loaded in free agency. I don't think there are a lot, other than Danielle Hunter, I don't think there are a lot of quality edge rush available that are, Josh Sweat's 28, I think. 26. I was way off.
Oh.
Yeah, he's 26.
So he's in the middle of his prime.
Turns 27 in a couple weeks. So, yeah, like with the age and the production that he's had as a part-time player, I think that the Eagles could possibly get, like I was saying, a third potentially because he's at a premium position.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil later in the show, but a edge rusher at the exact same age.
We're going to talk about that in a second.
Just got signed to a pretty decent contract, so I'm wondering if Sweat is going to approach, the Eagles front office or any front office and be like, hey, same age, similar-ish numbers. Look at his contract. I want that, or I want the start there.
Yeah. Well, the Steelers also having some trade talks. Apparently, I have only seen this from one source, but they're apparently listening to offers for wide receiver Deontay Johnson, which is kind of like blowing my mind out. I don't really see why, unless they're going to do a Claypool thing like they did last year. But Deontay is such a better player. He had the touchdown issue 2 years ago and has had some drops. But other than that, I think him and Pickens are a really solid 1-2 punch there in Pittsburgh.
I think it could be a potentially smart move, just because I wonder if the new offense is going to utilize the wide receiver 2 role a whole lot. And I feel like, if you transition to Pickens being that kind of X wide receiver 1, it could make sense. But yeah.
Yeah, I would also agree there. And I think he brought the Claypool trade. I think teams are just, learn their lesson about trading high value draft picks for what is probably a number 2 wide receiver on most depth charts. And I think, you'd look at Jerry Jeudy's trade and be like, okay, start there. If I'm offering the trade for Johnson with the Steelers, like, yeah, I'm giving you a couple day 3 picks, and if you don't like it, I'm gonna walk out, not offer anymore.
I think Deontay is a little bit different, for one, because he's in the last year of his deal and he has a really good cap hit for a wide receiver, $15.8 million. So I think that, for one, is a reason why the Steelers would be able to get more than Jerry Jeudy. Okay, actually, never mind. I'm taking my words back. Because the Jerry Jeudy's got 12.9, almost 13 million cap hit on his. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I still think Deontay's worth more than that, but anyways. And then one other just trade thing that I have gotten on NFL Trade Buds here. Apparently, there has been a potential Brian Burns to the Giants trade rumors, which I'm here for. If the Panthers can get 2 first-round picks, go for it. The Panthers need the draft picks, and they need help on offense more than they need help on defense. Because then if the Panthers want to do that and they can get those 2 firsts for Burns, use the 2nd-round pick or 3rd-round trade for Josh Sweat.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the compensation is, because I think it was Rossini who tweeted out that it's basically almost a done deal. They're just kind of hammering out like some things, and that barring any last minute breakdown and talks, that it's going to happen. But what's so interesting to me is just that 6th pick, man. That is a premium pick, and if you're the Panthers, you're like, I'm not giving up Brian Burns without that 6th overall pick, right? But if you're the Giants, you're like, I don't want to give up that pick. So it's going to be easy. It's going to be really interesting to see kind of who budges there, I think.
Yeah, and also I understand kind of for the Giants, but at the same time I don't. Like, they need help on offense. Like, the edge rush is decent what they have right now. Like, Kayvon Thibodeau had a great season last year. They have Azeez Ojulari. They have Boogie Basham. They can probably find another guy in the draft. Jihad Ward is a unrestricted free agent, but I don't know. I don't know why it's the Giants, unless they're just the team that's giving the most, I guess. But again, I don't really understand from their side.
Yeah, I agree. As a football enjoyer, like I love the idea of pairing Brian Burns with Kayvon Thibodeau and having friggin' 330 pounds of D-Law in the middle. Just it could be really fun to watch, but they have just, to me, that roster has so many needs, and giving up, assuming you have to give up a ton of capital, obviously, to get a player like Burns, you're limiting your possibilities to build out a full roster. So it's definitely interesting.
I guess we'll keep the trade thing going and talk about this one first. The Bengals franchised wide receiver T. Higgins. He has requested a trade from Cincinnati. So there's another one that the Panthers are potentially in on. I don't want them to be in on. Again, I think T. Higgins is great. I just don't think he is a one. I don't think he's a one. He hasn't been his whole career. And I just don't know if he can be a one.
Yeah, he just screams great complimentary wide receiver. I don't think it'd be a bad idea for the Panthers to trade for him, especially just not having a first-round pick this year and not being able to get a high-end weapon for Bryce Young. But yeah, what could you offer?
It's going to be a 2. I think eventually what the Bengals are going to get is a 2 for Higgins if they are able to trade him. I don't think there's not a team that would trade a 1. So especially with how the wide receiver class is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I am part of the T. Higgins hive, man. I do think that he can be a 1. I just like his skill set, the way he's physical, but he can, still catch the ball underneath and make some plays. I think that he could be a wide receiver 1 in the right system. I just think, I think this could be one of those things where it's like the player requests a trade, but eventually he just, either the two sides figure it out or he just plays under the franchise tag anyways. For whatever reason, I just have this feeling like he's not going to get dealt. But I mean, we have seen a lot of this kind of tag and trade with wide receivers, so it's not unprecedented. Just for whatever reason, I feel like the Bengals are going to want him back.
Yeah. All right. We kind of talked about this on the Mock Monday show, but Eagles defensive tackle Fletcher Cox has officially retired. Amazing career. One of the leaders in Philadelphia. He was the Eagles 2012 first-round pick, number 12 overall. With the Eagles his entire career, 2012 to 2023. One-time Super Bowl champ, winning Super Bowl 52. One-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, part of the 2010s All-Decades team. Stat-wise, regular season, 188 games, 182 of them starts, 519 career tackles, 351 solos, 88 tackles for loss, 70 sacks, 173 QB hits, 16 pass deflections, 16 forced fumbles, 14 fumble recoveries, and 3 touchdowns. In the playoffs, started all 12 of his games, 36 tackles, 22 solos, 7 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 10 QB hits, and 1 forced fumble. I love Fletch. It's tough to lose the 2 big guys in the middle on both sides of the ball in one off season, but kind of knew it was coming. Luckily, like we talked about, Jimmy, they still have Lane Johnson as a pillar in that locker room. Jalen Hurts going to step up in the leadership role. And I think a guy like Darius Slay will also step up a little bit in the leadership.
Definitely. I mean, when you have players of this age, there is probably just a common understanding in the locker room, like, hey, like, you're going to have to pick up the load, even while I'm still playing, because I'm just getting up there in age. I can't do it. So continue to learn under me and do what I did better, because I can't be that guy anymore. But Fletcher Cox, like his, like his teammate Jason Kelsey, has just been incredible from day one. He's been a pillar on this Eagles team since being drafted, and you just look at his entire career, and it's just an incredible amount of consistency. Even in his, last season, he's able to put up 5 sacks, 30 tackles. So he was still very much contributing. And that's what you want from a guy like Fletcher. But you also look at the Eagles depth chart, and you could tell this team knew, okay, by like 2021, you're thinking, okay, 2-3 years more. And then you go out, you get guys like Jordan Travis, you got Jalen Carter.
Davis.
Oh, Jordan Davis, sorry. And Jalen Carter, Milton Williams. And you're thinking like, okay, we know these guys are on the way out. The best thing we can do right now is to draft the replacements while they're still playing. And that's what they did. So if you're an Eagles fan, you're happy with what Fletcher Cox gave this organization for, 11 years. And you should at the very least be like, all right, we're not high and dry in this position. Fletcher Cox gave this team everything he had. This team knew when he was going to leave for the most part. And, I don't know if Fletcher Cox is a Hall of Famer. Maybe not. At the very least, not a first ballot. But definitely one of those Ring of Honor guys that will be immortalized for winning this team's first Super Bowl.
I think he is a Hall of Famer eventually.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. The all pros aren't there, but that's because he was playing at the same time as Aaron Donald.
That is true.
And, so there's like a guy that's all pro every single year, pretty much. So it was tough to get the all pros for him. But the 6 Pro Bowls, I think, will stand up. And the fact that he was on the NFL's decades team for the 2010s. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. He will be missed, but I feel like the Eagles did their best to make sure it wasn't like you were going to miss him desperately. It was very much like, we're going to miss his presence, miss what he brought to Philadelphia. But we had a plan for when he was going to leave. We have that plan in place. We can move forward and still be an effective defense.
The magic of Howie Roseman.
He gets it.
Last general news thing here before we get into a lot of numbers. The Bears, they have a pitch on the table, $2 billion stadium, lakefront stadium there that will replace Soldier Field. I wasn't able to read the article because it was freaking behind a paywall on I think it was the Chicago Tribune or something like that. So wasn't able to read the article, but saw the headline, $2 billion stadium pitch that the Bears have coming, and seems like it's going to move forward there in Chicago. So I won't have to walk up all those steps to get to the last row anymore.
Yeah, we went to a Luke Combs concert last June. Oh my gosh, man. It's an actual workout in that stadium.
Jordan Love's new Home Away from Home.
About to be Sam Darnold when he's a Minnesota Viking. No,
maybe it'll be a dome for Chicago. Maybe it'll be a dome this
I think they said that it's going to be a dome.
Yeah.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, I think it just has to be, because I feel like if you're Chicago, you're like, I want to host a Super Bowl. Because the amount of revenue that brings a city is, something that a lot of teams enjoy when they get a chance to host. And not having a dome while being in the Midwest is just something that's always going to make, the Super Bowl city choosing committee go, nope, not going to do it. Not going to take that risk in February in Chicago.
And that wind coming off the lake is brutal.
Ooh, that'd be so brutal.
All right, let's talk about a couple extensions here. The Eagles getting deal done with guard Landon Dickerson, 4 years, $84 million extension. $87 million max value, $50 million guaranteed, highest paid guard in NFL history at $21 million per season. Super happy for Landon, deserving of it, and he's one of the guys that is gonna lead this kind of new look Eagles interior there. The Colts have also got a deal done with their franchise tagged wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. 3-year, $70 million extension, $71.5 million max value, $46 million guaranteed. Great deal for Indianapolis. Needed to keep Michael Pittman for the development of Anthony Richardson alone, but I like that deal for Indy, and I like it for both sides there.
Yeah, I'm just a little shocked at the term, and I'm always worried about paying wide receivers, but Pittman, when he's been on the field, has been very efficient, and I'm wondering how this would play into possible Justin Jefferson extension talks.
I don't think it has anything on it. It was only 23.3 per year.
Yeah, so I'm definitely thinking like, hey, I'm double the player Pittman is. Like, if you even think of putting something close to that, I'm walking away.
I'm lowballing. I'm starting JJ at 20.
$20.
All right, releases here. The Raiders, they released defensive end Jerry Tillery. Panthers, they're going to look for a new center. They released center Bradley Bozeman. So, again, kind of turning over that interior O-line there in Carolina. The Packers, Logan, bunch of players getting released. Linebacker Devondre Campbell, left tackle David Bakhtiari, and in a conjunctive move, the running back Aaron Jones also on the way out.
Yeah, bittersweet day for me,
also
man.
announced his retirement.
I don't think so, not yet.
I think he just did a thank you GB post. It kind of looked like a retirement post a little bit because of that, but I think he's still. But it just was released too that the Packers released him with a failed physical designation.
Makes sense.
So
makes sense.
He's not healthy still. But yeah, I mean, Aaron Jones was my favorite Packer, man. Like, I just loved him. He's just a great guy. And maybe we'll get into it when we talk about the adjacent kind of signing and things like that. But the other two, Campbell and Bakhtiari, those were kind of on the wall. I think their combined cap hits were like around like 25 million. Like, I think the Packers could save in that number, and it was like they're gonna do it. So yeah.
Well,
I hate to say this about Aaron Jones. Viking. Yes.
I'd puke.
Yes.
I'd be so beside myself.
Bring it.
The Packers tried.
Fit too. I can't even cap.
Yeah.
The Packers tried, though. The Packers tried. I was talking to our guy Danny Potter about the Packers as he's like all in on the Super Bowl Packers hype train. But I was like, dude, like the Packers tried. They offered him a restructured deal. And he's like, no, not fam. And they were like, all right, well, you're gone.
Here's my issue, right? Is like, first off, he already took a pay cut once last offseason. There's only so many times you can keep coming back to a guy, right? And the Jacobs deal is essentially like the same money.
I didn't even see that one, but
yeah, it's like the same money. It's like the same. So I get Jacobs is younger, but in terms of their career carries, like there's an argument that Jacobs has more tread on the tire. I don't know. Overall, this has been a very good day for me, I'd say, for a couple other reasons, but that we'll get to. But the RB situation is one that I'm a little curious about. But
yeah, I would say one thing that kind of makes sense when it comes to just letting go of Aaron Donald after getting Josh Jacobs. It's hard to have two number one running backs that basically play the position the exact same way. So as much fun as it would be to have like a really exciting running back tandem of Jones and Jacobs, they play so similarly that they both have the same weaknesses. So you can't have your top two running backs have the exact same weaknesses. I think if you're the Packers now, you're looking at your depth running back and going, all right, can you pass block? That was my big thing here. I think Josh Jacobs was not great at it. Aaron Jones was a little better. But I think if you're the Packers, you're like, okay, I can't have two running backs that can't pass block. So you let Aaron Jones go. You have Josh Jacobs. And I think you live with it, and then you like either if you have I don't know who's in the running back depth chart for the Packers right now. Do they still have AJ Dillon?
No, I think he's an unrestricted free agent.
He's
I
unrestricted.
doubt they'll bring him back after signing Jacobs.
No, I doubt it too. I think they're probably going to look probably either later in the draft, maybe 5th, 6th, 7th round, and be like, okay, this guy was known for pass blocking in college. We can make him the pass block running back, or just find one in free agency. There's still a lot out there. So I get it. You don't want to pay two running backs that do the exact same thing. And that's essentially what Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs were. The exact same running back.
The only thing I'll say with that is Aaron Jones is such a better pass catcher.
That is true.
That's the only thing I will say with that.
Yeah.
Guys, we have a trade. we have a trade to announce. The Lions are getting some secondary help. They are trading for Bucks corner Carlton Davis.
Davis.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a big one. Haven't seen the comp update yet, but yeah, so Lions have been needing corner for a couple years now, and they get a big one and a good one in Carlton Davis. Has been excellent for Tampa the last couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, depending on the compensation, I really like that for them.
In my mind, I have a 3. I have a 3 possibly, depending on just seeing what his contract looks like. Yeah, it could be even lower than that. I mean, he has a $20.3 million cap hit. He's going to have to get re-signed. This is the last year of his deal. He has 3 void years after this year, but I think anyway, yeah, 3 void years. So yeah, he's in the last year of his deal. Maybe the Lions sign into an extension potentially, but yeah, I think it's a pretty solid deal depending on, like you said, Logan, the comp. All right, let's get back to the releases here. The 49ers, they are expected to release defensive lineman Eric Armstead, just another D tackle going to be on the market. They tried to restructure his deal, weren't able to come to terms, so the expectation is but on Wednesday that he will be available. So yeah, 49ers maybe in the interior D-line market now, draft and free agency.
Yeah, all I have to say is Armstead, Viking.
You are.
You are a Minnesota Viking. Listen, any free agent that's worth half his salt, I'm just going to call a Viking until the world ends.
You're ready to learn skull.
Get ready to learn skull, buddy. Get ready to learn to shovel your driveway of snow, buddy.
Bro, when you sent me that, Logan, I literally LMAO'd.
Yeah, I know.
That was hilarious. And the last release we had to talk about the Patriots. I think you said this, Jimmy. Something to the lines of Devontae Parker is out of New England.
Oh yeah, Devontae Parker. Get ready to learn Chinese, buddy. I don't want you to my team.
He is.
Get ready to learn St. Louis Battlehawk.
Get ready to learn the rules of Canadian football, buddy.
I don't think he's fast enough for that. All right, let's talk money. because we are at the point now. We are into actually no, we got some restructures first to talk about. The Seahawks, they agreed to a restructured deal with wide receiver Tyler Lockett, a new 2-year, $30 million deal, $34 million max value, $13 million guaranteed for Lockett. So locked in for 13 this year, and then an unguaranteed 17 next year with $4 million in incentives across the 2 years. Yeah, I think it's a good deal. Lockett, I think he should stay. He's a Seahawk through and through. So I like that to keep him in Seattle.
Yeah. That feels like essentially like a 1-year, $13 million deal based on the guaranteed money, which I think that's a very good deal for somebody who I think he's still got stuff in the tank, man. Tyler Lockett, he's one of those guys that I always say, like, until you show me you can't do it anymore, I'm just going to keep betting on you showing up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you always just need that consistency at the wide receiver position. And I feel like just Lockett, I feel like he's been in football my entire life. I mean, I know he's only been there since 2015, but he's just always just been consistent up there. And it feels honestly like he's somehow getting better as he's getting older. He had a little bit of a down year this year, but he's still unbelievably efficient.
The Saints getting a new deal done with linebacker Demario Davis, 2 years, $17.25 million, $13.25 million fully guaranteed. So good deal for Demario. Gets to probably end his career in New Orleans. And the Dolphins finally have a deal done, a restructured deal with left tackle Tron Armstead to bring him back for 2024. Big news for Tua and that offensive line that has lost a lot interior-wise. So they get their left tackle back, though. So Tua's front side protected once again. Re-signings. Here we go. Now we're talking money. The Chiefs this weekend getting a deal done, signing defensive tackle Chris Jones to a 5-year, $158.75 million deal. $101 million guaranteed. Good Lord. That is a lot of money.
I mean, that's the money you get when you're one of, if not the best guy at your position in the NFL, especially a position as important as interior D-line. I mean, you look at the last 2 seasons, 26 sacks in 2 seasons. As an interior defensive lineman, that's absurd. And back-to-back Super Bowls, and he was a massive component of that. I can't argue against this. I mean, Chiefs have probably one of, if not the best interior D lineman in the league and the best quarterback. And it's worked so far. It's won them back-to-back Super Bowls.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of impacting that team, Jones is second only to Mahomes. I mean, he's that good and he's that effective for them. So good for him getting his bag. Good on the Chiefs too, kind of, getting him kind of what he's owed.
Yeah. And, the crazy thing is, every time you see a new contract signed, you're like, holy crap, he's overpaid. And then 2 years later, the salary cap jumps, and then he's suddenly underpaid. I mean, as a Viking fan, when we signed Kirk Cousins back in 2018, everyone was screaming he's overpaid. He was being paid $28 million a year. Like, that's how the salary cap works in this league. And you look at this Chris Jones deal, yeah, massive deal, over $100 million guaranteed. Probably by year 2, year 3, they're going to look at him like, wow, he's underpaid, with the salary cap going up. I mean, hell, they're probably already saying that about Mahomes somehow. Probably not 100%, but you can make the argument that you went back-to-back Super Bowls, your quarterback's underpaid.
Yeah, I mean, he is now the highest paid defensive tackle in NFL history, $31.75 million per year. 2 years younger than Aaron Donald. So, sure. Go ahead. And now he's going to end his career in Kansas City. So, probably. Anyways. The Bucks got their quarterback back. Re-signed quarterback Baker Mayfield, 3 years, $100 million, $115 million max deal, $50 million guaranteed. And the structure of this deal is pretty solid. $30 million fully guaranteed in the first year, $30 million base salary in the second, with 20 of that guaranteed, and then 40 in the third year non-guaranteed, $5 million per year in incentives. Yeah, Baker got the bag.
I mean, it's a solid deal for a QB that has really found his place in Tampa. Sure, the argument is he only had one solid season, but this isn't this is only $50 million guaranteed. And this still, I don't even think this puts him in top 10, maybe even not even top 15 in QB salaries yearly. So if you can avoid putting yourself in a position where you have to pay QB, in the top 10 of salary cap hits, you take it. And not Mahomes, Mayfield has shown at the very least he's worth bringing back for a second time around.
Yeah. I mean, my only worry is, what is he going to look like without
That's where I was
his
going.
OC there? But I'm blanking on his name now. But
Canales.
Yes, Canales. But I think it was, Tampa Bay was in kind of a tough spot, but I think that this was the right move for them. And I think it's a good fit and a decent deal for a quarterback, starting quarterback.
Yeah, good deal for both sides. And Baker gets some security. We have the comp update for that Carlton Davis trade, by the way. The Bucks get a third-round pick this year. Let me see if the Lions have more than one. They do. So not sure if it's going to be the TJ Hawkinson pick, number 73 from the Vikings, or if it's going to be 92, their own pick. We'll have to wait and see. I think it might be 73 because the Bucks sent Davis along with a 6th this year and a 6th next year. So I think with sending those two picks, I think might have gotten them to the higher of the 2/3 from Detroit. But yeah, I think I was right though. In my mind, I had a 3. So got that one on the dot anyways. Back to re-signings here. The Bills, they re-signed left tackle Deion Dawkins, 3 years, $60.5 million deal. It's pretty solid. I think that both sides wanted to get that done. He wanted to stay in Buffalo for sure. And he is now one of the top paid tackles in the league.
Yeah, dude, he trolled me. I fell for it. I don't know if you guys saw that, but 10 minutes before the news broke, he tweeted out he was leaving Buffalo, and then he literally was like, "Psych." Yeah, I mean, good on him. I was like, Jesus, I can't imagine what this Bills team is going to look like next year. Honestly, he's that solid. I think of a left tackle, really important for them on that line.
Yeah, I think he becomes the 5th highest paid tackle now, just surpassing Lane Johnson at 20 and change with, Bakhtiari's still on there. So I don't know what happens with his contract. But anyways, the Colts, they got another deal done, re-signing defense tackle Grover Stewart, 3 years, $39 million. He's a guy that I know a lot of people are saying, he's a guy that will do better than most people think, and he did. He did really solid, 13 per year there to stay in Indy. think that's a good deal for Grover Stewart, who's been kind of underrated throughout his career so far. The Patriots, they re-signed wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, 3 years, $33 million. I was shocked at this one. The money in terms of the wide receiver market isn't a lot. However, he's a guy that's, been pretty consistent throughout his career, but he's coming off torn ACL last year. So that was my hesitancy with signing into for one, more than a 1 year deal, and for two, for $11 million per season. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Another Colts deal that went down. They re-signed linebacker Zaire Franklin, 3 years, $31.26 million. Another underrated guy on that Colts defense that really sideline to sideline linebacker has played well for them. So, yeah. Colts doing a lot of business today. The Raiders, they re-signed center Andre James, 3 years, $24 million, $16 million guaranteed. That was a big focal point for Vegas, was to get Andre James back. I think he would have probably done about the same. Again, he's not the top 5 center in the league, but quality starter that has really made a name for himself. The Browns, they re-signed edge rusher Zadarius Smith, 2 years, $23.5 million, $25 million max value there. Z just keeps eating on the free agent market. Stays in Cleveland with Myles Garrett there.
Yeah, I like this. Zadarius Smith kind of had a quieter end of the season, kind of like he did with the Vikings last year. Well, you're probably hoping, if you're the Browns, is like, hey, can we keep this consistency throughout the entire season? Which is kind of been Zadarius Smith's weakness. He starts off seasons really strong and then just kind of fades off by like week 8 or 9. But it's still a very good signing. You want a guy to match with Myles Garrett, and that's what Zadarius Smith did last year.
The Lions, they got a deal done, re-signing guard Graham Glasgow, 3 years, $20 million, $9.5 million guaranteed. Love that for Detroit. They lost Jonah Jackson in free agency, knew that was going to happen. Luckily, they got one of their guards back in Graham Glasgow, who has just been a pillar of consistency throughout his career. Really solid presence inside for Detroit. And we have kickers re-signing as well. The Bucks re-signed kicker Chase McLaughlin, 3 years, $12.3 million deal. I think when it does that sound, it means it's a bad deal. I think is what that's telling them. But yeah, I mean, Chase McLaughlin, pretty solid. Definitely in the upper half, I would think, of the league in kickers. But he's not one that I really love, in terms of kickers. Greg the Leg re-signing with the Jets, 2 years, $8.4 million deal. Yeah, see, the cash register doesn't love the kicker deals, apparently.
Dude, come on, kickers are people too. Cash register.
But yeah, I think that's a solid deal. Both signing for $4+ million per season. Why not? The Broncos released Justin Simmons, but they did re-sign safety PJ Locke, 2 year, $7 million deal, $9 million max value. Dude, I don't know what's wrong with this thing. But I think that's an interesting one there. They're going to need PJ to step up into more of a starting role this year with Simmons on the way out. The Browns, did another re-signing on defense, re-signing defense tackle Maurice Hurst to a 1-year, $3.2 million deal. We're just going to have to live with that now. But 1-year, $3.2 million deal for Mo Hurst. Solid deal there to stick in Cleveland. And the Browns kind of keeping their D-line together while trying to add to it a little bit in the draft, probably. The Bengals, they re-signed tight end Drew Sample to a 3-year deal. It means no Brock Bowers, right? They got the Sample. The Bills re-signing defensive end AJ Epinesa to a 2-year deal. I didn't really see that one happening. I thought Epinesa was going to be gone. I thought he would have gotten a decent deal. You know, he wasn't going to get an earth-shattering contract from someone, but I thought he was good and enough and had a pretty good season last year for him to garner a mid-level deal in the free agent market. Interested to see what his numbers are when he comes back.
Yeah, it was a tough week last week for Bills, but I think they did some really good re-signings today.
The Eagles, they get another one of those guys that I said or that I didn't say was going to be a leader. They re-signed defensive end Brandon Graham to a new 1-year deal for 24. So he returns one of the guys that didn't retire. So love that for Philly, and Graham continues to be a good presence as a situational pass rusher there in his later years. The Jets, they re-signed safety Chuck Clark to a 1-year deal, coming off the ACL tear last year. They want to actually see what Chuck can do in their defense this year for Robert Saleh and co. The Broncos, this was an interesting one. They re-signed kicker Will Lutz to a 2-year deal. Originally, Lutz signed a 3-year deal with the Jags. And then I guess he's like, nah, I'm going to re-sign with Denver instead.
We have a trade to announce.
And yeah, and it's not good. It is not good.
We have a trade to announce.
The Panthers are sending defensive end Brian Burns to the Giants for a 2nd and a 5th. He signs a 5-year, $150 million max value, $87.5 million guaranteed. That's bad, dude. That's horrendous.
Let me just put it in perspective. In 2022, the Los Angeles Rams offered the Panthers 2 first-round draft picks in 2024 and 25, and a 2nd-round pick in 2025 for Burns. That's what they said no to.
Yeah. Oh, that is tough.
That is really bad man management for the Panthers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's tough.
I think the reason why is just because he was, on a 1-year deal on the franchise tag, and the Giants had to pay all that money as well, so it just lowered the price tag on the compensation. But I will say though, let's see, what did the Panthers get here? So they're going to have number 33, and I would assume it's the Giants' 1st-round pick or 2nd-round pick, not the Seahawks. So they would now have 33-39 if it is the Giants' own second rounder. And the fifth rounder is going to be 140. So, I mean, it made sense regardless. The Panthers needed picks, any kind of picks they could get. They only had 6 coming into today. Now they have 8.
Yeah, and it's crazy too. Right when we started talking about Brian Burns to the Giants, Logan, you mentioned their first round pick. What was it, 6th overall?
Mm-hmm.
Not even close to being on the table. Like, that's rough. I mean,
yeah. And I think, I think the thing is just to go back to your point, it's mismanagement because you're not thinking ahead year to year. You know, you go from at the height of his valuation, you know, there was a team willing to give you 2 first rounders for him. And you turned them down because you felt like he was more valuable. But then you don't go and re-sign him to a long-term extension. You know, it's kind of a sort of organizational cognitive dissonance that leads you to kind of these things. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I think it's time to come to the tough conclusion. Since Dan Snyder is no longer an owner, I think David Tepper's the worst owner in the league. Because I see his fingerprints all over this. Because, especially if you're the Panthers in 2022, do you really think you're competing with Brian Burns? I mean, you'd have to have your head in the sand to think even 2 years ago you're competing with Brian Burns. Like, I don't even care for the Panthers, and I'm frustrated on, like, just basically on behalf of good football. Like, how do you mess this up?
And Brian Burns now becomes the second highest paid defensive end in the league.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to mention, interesting thing that happened. Apparently, the NFL updated its compensatory picks, and they've awarded the Bengals an extra third now. Instead of one of their 2 6th that they got. So now the Bengals have the 97th overall selection. And I don't know if they took away the 214th or the 209th, whatever.
That's a that's like in Monopoly when you get like one of the chance cards and it's like bank error in your favor. You collect like 200 or whatever. It's a big swing.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. It screws my whole thing because I had all the draft picks in my draft book, like the actual numbers. So now I got to go through and every pick after 97, I got to update +1, +1, +1 for all 32 teams. Anyways, let's continue on free agency here, or a couple more re-signings. The 49ers, they re-signed quarterback Brandon Allen. So good re-signing there in San Fran.
Finally, a Brock Purdy replacement.
The Colts, they re-signed edge rusher Tyquan Lewis, another one that remains in Indianapolis. So underrated pass rusher there. And then the 49ers, they tendered a 1-year deal to restricted free agent wide receiver Jawan Jennings. Your guy, Jawan Jennings.
The X Factor. Dude, I was right, though. He was kind of balling out in that Super Bowl.
No, he was cooking, dude. He was.
All right, let's get to the money in free agency. We already talked about the Kirk Cousins deal, the Wilkins deal, and the Robert Hunt deal. Let's go to your Vikings, Jimmy.
Woo!
Texans edge rusher Jonathan Greenard, 4-year, $76 million deal. $42 million guaranteed there for Minnesota.
I like that a lot. I think this probably just means Daniil Hunter's days are done in Minnesota. But I've been on Twitter all day, and all I see from Titans fans are, you're going to absolutely love this guy. I think,
Texans, man.
Yeah. And all they say is you're going to love this guy. He had a career season, so you're hoping to just get more out of it and not just a flash in the pan. But I see a ton of upside. And again, just we're getting younger at a position of need was definitely a must. And the assumption is Daniil Hunter asked for a lot more money than this. And honestly, I would take Grenard at this over Daniil Hunter at what he was asking for, just because of the both the age, career season, and just a lot of intangibles I'm very excited to see on the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I agree with all that, Jimmy, and I think that he's going to be a good fit in Mini.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's taking a little bit of a chance, but solid player nonetheless at a position of need. All right, let's go to you now, Logan. The Packers, big signing of the day, signing Giant safety Xavier McKinney, 4-year, $68 million deal. They finally get a safety. Oh, cash register said nah.
Yeah, hopefully it's not an omen. No, yeah, it was pretty shocking, man. Like the Packers are notorious for not being involved in kind of first wave free agency, and they were obviously super active today. So really fun day for me. Love this signing. It's top market money for safety, but he's a top market safety, and it was a huge position of need for us, and it's not a very strong safety draft class. So I think going out and getting the top guy really is a good move, and I'm all for it. I'm on board.
I'll tell you, I like the safeties in this year's class. Cole Bishop and Trey Taylor, those are my two. Those are my guys.
I'll caveat it. I think it's a deep safety class, and I think there are some guys, but I'm talking like top heavy. Like there's no real kind of strong.
There's no real like depth safety. You either get like a real good one or like nothing.
Cooper DeJean. Anyway, interesting note from Mike Garafolo though on the Brian Burns trade. The Giants essentially traded away Leonard Williams and acquired Brian Burns for the same thing. Second and a fifth. Fantastic. Love it. I love it here. I love it here.
Love good man management from your favorite teams.
Luckily, Joe Shane. Joe Shane cooking with gas today.
Bryce Young. Luckily, my Panthers jersey is Bryce Young. Anyways, let's go to my team now. The Eagles. They signed Jets defensive end Bryce Huff, 3 years, $51.1 million. And I like it. We kind of talked about this with the Josh Sweat trade rumors. Knew something had to happen in free agency. And again, I like it because it opens up. Now the Eagles can get something back for either Hassan Reddick or Josh Sweat. I think Reddick has more value than Sweat does. But I like it. A guy that needs to step up into more of a starting role than he was with the Jets. Only played about 42% of the snaps. I know the big question everyone has, though, Bryce Huff. Can he play the run? We'll see. I mean, I think that was a question mark with Nolan Smith as well. And he did play the run pretty well when he was on the field. So, I don't know. I like it, though. It's fine.
I like it. I think he fits what the Eagles are looking for. A ton of upside. I think the big question is just, okay, where does he fit in? That's basically it. Like, is he like Is he your number one option at edge? Is he rotation edge? What do we want from him?
And they didn't have to pay top market pass rush.
No.
Like the Vikings paid 19 a year for Greenard. The Eagles paid right around 17. So it's pretty solid.
Pretty good.
Let's go to the Rams. They signed Lions guard Jonah Jackson, 3 years, $51 million, $34 million guaranteed. And yeah, dude, the Rams they're getting it done out there. Re-signing Kevin Dotson and now signing Jonah Jackson. They've solidified that interior for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, you got to build the trenches. And gosh, who was that? Who's the lineman they got last year? I'm forgetting his name.
You talking about Kevin Dotson?
Yes.
The guy that they re-signed, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, having those two guys on the team with a quarterback that you just need to protect because Stafford, yeah, I mean, he can get out of the pocket, but he's no Lamar Jackson, so you got to buy him time. So this makes a ton of sense for the Rams. They've always valued a good offensive line, and then I mean, they won a Super Bowl with a good offensive line. So this is the kind of move you make when you just need that.
Yeah, I think Kyron Williams is going to love it too.
Yeah. And I like how they aggressively pursued the O-line, it feels like, over the last year or so. You know, it was a pretty glaring issue for a while there, but they didn't let it kind of fester or grow into a bigger problem. They really targeted that position in free agency and the draft, and it's went well for them so far. So good on them.
Yeah, I think that they can now focus on tackle. I think they need to upgrade at tackle in terms of offense. And I think that's literally the last thing that's really a weakness on their offense. Otherwise, most of the rest of the offseason and draft has to be focused on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
The Commanders, Dan Quinn going after all his guys with Dallas. They signed Cowboys edge rusher Dorrance Armstrong, 3 years, $45 million max value deal there. And he's another guy, just like Bryce Huff, that really hasn't been a starter. But when he has been on the field, he's been pretty effective. So $15 million per year on that one there. And again, Dan Quinn gets a guy that he really likes. And that will be a starter, just like Bryce Huff, probably, because Washington has literally zero things at defensive end. The Jags making a wide receiver splash, not the one everyone thought they were going to do. They signed Bills wide receiver Gabe Davis, 3 years, $39 million, $50 million max value on that one. That's interesting, to say the least. And apparently they're not out on Calvin Ridley still. Apparently he could return with Gabe Davis in tow.
Yeah, the one problem I have with the Jags is they constantly just get the NFL equivalent of role players at their wide receiver position. They get the sixth man at the wide receiver position. You know, they get the rotation arm and for a position where you need a standout wide receiver to catch throws by what should be your franchise QB Trevor Lawrence. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I get it. I like Gabe Davis, but he was a complimentary piece on the Bills team that had Stephon Diggs as your number one guy. If you expect Gabe Davis to be anything more than complimentary, you're going to be really disappointed in Jacksonville. The contract isn't bad. It's really not. It's how much a complimentary wide receiver probably should be paid. But when are the Jags going to finally get the guy, the WR1, the throw it and the F it, throw it over here. He's over there somewhere. He'll catch it kind of wide receiver. And it's just, even they bring back Calvin Ridley, those guys aren't wide receiver ones. They aren't X factors. They're not going to blow open the game. They're not going to blow past coverage. Neither of these guys are going to force teams to double team him or scheme for them. It's just, I don't know what Jacksonville wants in the wide receiver room.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Jimmy. I think the positives here are that, like, the Jags have been able to take someone who was kind of, that borderline kind of role player and at least elevate them to close to a wide receiver one status. Christian Kirk has been really good for them. And I think their hope is that they can do a similar thing with Gabe Davis and maybe. But I agree with you. I think that, just at some point, like, you need that guy. And now, and in fairness to them, like, those guys don't hit the open free agency market a whole lot, and there currently aren't any guys in open free agency for them to kind of go out and get. So I think maybe you could say, kind of they're making the best kind of with what they have. But yeah, my worry is if this was like their move to address the position and they're not really going to do much else. I think if that's the case, you're going to have still the same persistent issues in Jacksonville they were dropping passes left and right last year. It was almost hard to watch. I felt bad for Trevor Lawrence. So, yeah.
But who knows, though? Who knows? We all thought that, the Christian Kirk deal was like, what the hell's going on? And he turned out to be amazing for Jacksonville. Until his balls kind of got tangled up there at the end, but
always got to be aware of testicular torsion, gentlemen.
Got to keep them all in the same room. But yeah, Doug Peterson's a good offensive coach, and maybe Gabe Davis turns out well for Jacksonville. I think it's going to definitely be good for Trevor. He's going to finally have a guy that can stretch the field. But like you said, Logan, will he be able to catch those deep balls? So that's the big issue. Let's go to the Giants. Signed Packers guard John Runyon, 3 years, $30 million, $17 million guaranteed. What do you got on John Runyon there, Logan?
He's I think, slightly above average guard. I think they overpaid for kind of what he is. He was decent for us, but he was also on an O-line full of like some other really good dudes. And the Giants don't really have that. So it's interesting. They had to do they have to do stuff to address that O-line. So maybe this is kind of the beginning of that, but there were a lot of other O-line options out there. I feel like that would have been better. Maybe more expensive, but I think, better than kind of that. But
yeah, it looks like Our Lads has him slotted in as the starting right guard right now. Yeah, because they really didn't have a lot of quality guard on the roster, so makes a lot of sense there. Let's go to back to the Vikings, Jimmy. Signing another Texan.
Woo!
Linebacker Blake Cashman, 3 years, $25.5 million deal there as I freeze, which is cool.
Love it. You look very flattering.
Thank you. But, $25.5 million for Cashman over 3 for Minnesota.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I think you're seeing the obvious philosophy the Vikings are going on with this free agency is bolster that defense so we don't have to use draft picks on defenders and maybe use draft picks to trade up. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. And one thing I really like about Blake Cashman is his arm length. Like, you look at two linebackers on the Vikings, and Cashman and Ivan Pace Jr. Ivan Pace arm length 30 and a fourth. That's second percentile. Blake Cashman 30 and an eighth. That's first percentile. So little short, but they do their jobs. So, I mean, again, I feel like arm length, especially for if you're not an offensive lineman, is kind of overrated. Like, so it seems the Vikings, especially with Flores, have a type when it comes to edge rushers and linebackers. So they're not worried about those arm lengths. And if what we saw with Pace is true, this is what makes me excited about this deal. If what we saw with Pace this last year is any indication of what Flores and this team can do with like defensive players with short arms, I'm really excited to see what they can do with Cashman.
Josh Jacobs is running out of those arm tackles, unfortunately, James. So
I'm sorry.
it's going to be Jover. But no,
okay.
Josh
Jacobs gets a touchdown. Packers cut the lead 63-14. All right, good for
no, I actually like that signing, and I like the kind of what Minnie's been doing here so far in free agency.
Yeah. Ooh, we got a signing. Just now.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that because he's lower. We're doing this by total value of the deal. So
all right.
Let's go to the Bears. The Bears making a splash, signing Eagles running back DeAndre Swift, 3 years, 24 million, 15.3 million guaranteed. This one also did not get good reviews on the ESPN free agency grading article. And I get it. I totally get it. The Bears are not a team that should be spending big money on running back. Like, yes, did they need one? Maybe. But I know, I think you liked him too last year, Logan. Rashawn Johnson had a decent rookie year, and, you know, we were kind of expecting him to step up into more of a starting spot in Chicago this coming year, but probably not now with Swift in the fold.
Yeah, I don't see the vision here. Like, all you have to see, like, 15 million guaranteed for DeAndre Swift. I just, it's rich. It's rich for any back. But this is a pretty good free agency class. I just feel like if they wanted to spend on a back, there were definitely more guys out there. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's also a guy that's only had one really good year and one really healthy year in his career with Philadelphia last year. So, and I can tell you the Bears don't have the O-line the Eagles do. So,
right. Or the Lions did when he was playing there.
Right.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like, when you sign a big-time running back, you better have a line for him to run around.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that's always the danger of signing a running back that had a really good offensive line. It's like, okay, can he compensate for us not having that line? And the Bears and, you know, Eagles offensive lines, they couldn't be more different in terms of skill set. So I don't get this deal. Especially when you look at the Bears running back core, they're not great, but they were fine. You know, they weren't awful. So I don't see how much this moves the needle, and that's a lot of money to give to a position that has fallen kind of out of favor around the league.
Yeah, Swift now joins Khalil Herbert, Rashawn Johnson, like I said, and Travis Homer there in Chicago. Let's go to another running back, Titans, signing Cowboys running back Tony Pollard, 3 years, $24 million as well. Don't know what the guarantees are for Pollard. I would assume they're similar to Swift. That's an interesting. That's him and Tajay Spears together. I don't really like that for Tennessee. I think they're the same player. Like, where's the power going to come from in Tennessee? They're losing Derrick Henry, and now they have two guys that are kind of slashers.
Yeah, this gives me DeMarco Murray to the Titans vibes.
But he was a power guy.
But DeMarco Murray, at the very least, was productive. And again, this is kind of like the Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs thing. It's just you just have two of the same running backs right now. That doesn't move the needle. You don't want two of the same guys running in the backfield.
My big worry is that like it felt like last year seeing him kind of coming back from that injury, he didn't kind of look like the same kind of explosive player as he was pre-injury. And my thing with this signing for the Titans and this signing with the Bears, similar deals, is that I feel like they don't move the needle as much in these RB rooms for either of these teams. I feel like they still have to address it in the draft. So when you're shelling out those bucks, you want to be able to at least say like, okay, like we elevated that room to a point we feel good about. And I don't know if I'm there yet for either of those teams.
Well, and holistically, like it's the same thing with the Bears. Like, why? Like, you're not a team that, for one, has the money to spend big on a running back, and for two, does this actually help the team? Because the Titans are a team that desperately needs offensive line and defensive line, other than Jeffrey Simmons. So, yeah, I didn't really get this one for Tennessee. Let's go to the Rams again. They signed Seahawks tight end Colby Parkinson, 3 years, $22.5 million, $15.5 million guaranteed for Park there. Returns home. He's from right near the LA area. It's an interesting one. Going to be the tight end 2. That's a lot of money to pay a tight end 2 behind Tyler Higbee there in LA. But they're going with Jimmy's vision. Bring back 12 personnel.
Let's go.
Jumbo set.
Let's go. That's what I think the Bears should do with Cole Kmet and Brock Bowers. I see the vision. It's there.
Yeah. In NCAA, Jimmy is running nothing but jumbo set and the Maryland Eye. That's it. That's the entire.
Come on, 13-0, Fiesta Bowl champs, NCAA 06 football. Unstoppable here.
But Park was another guy, though, that everyone was like, yeah, he's going to do better than people think. And that he did. I mean, again, for one, the Rams do a good job stealing a guy from a division rival. But, yeah, I mean, maybe this does signal Sean McVay is going to go, all right, Kyron Williams, let's run the ball. The Cardinals getting in on free agency. They signed Raiders defensive tackle Bilal Nichols, 3 years, $21 million, $14.4 million guaranteed. Big area of need for Arizona was the D line and pass rush overall. Now, Bilal Nichols isn't a guy that's going to give you big sack numbers, but they needed a lot of help on the interior D line in their base 3-4 there for Jonathan Gannon's squad. And they have Bilal Nichols slotted in now as the starting nose. Broncos getting a Justin Simmons replacement to pair with P.J. Locke, signing Dolphins safety Brandon Jones. 3 years, $20 million deal there. He's a guy that's been pretty under the radar, I would say, throughout his career. Serviceable guy there in Miami, and now is going to get a chance to play for Coach Payton there in Denver, where they don't have a Brian Flores or Vic Fangio. Jimmy and I are always competing for the same defenders because we have former Miami guys.
That's what we love.
How about the 49ers getting some help for Nick Bosa? They signed Bills edge rusher Leonard Floyd, 2 years, $20 million, $24 million max value, $12 million guaranteed on that one. So essentially a 1 year, $12 million deal for Leonard Floyd. I think that's a good one. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities playing opposite of Nick Bosa, and Leonard Floyd, it hasn't mattered where he's gone in his career. He's been productive every single stop. So he's a good solid play for the new DC there, Nick Sorensen, I believe. Your Vikings, Jimmy, they did get a pass rusher, if you want to call him that. Signing Dolphins linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel, 2 years, $20 million, $14 million guaranteed. He was a guy I had heard about the Eagles signing, man. What the hell is that?
Dude, we got our guy. We got more of our guys. Another Dolphin player on the defense. And let me tell you, every good defense needs just one quirked up white boy with a little bit of swag, and that's what Van Ginkel brings to the club.
Dude,
We lost our previous quirked up white boy with a little bit of swag in Kirk Cousins, and we found another one on the other side of the ball. I couldn't be happier.
I'm so pissed. I love Gink. Gink's a great dude, and him on Hard Knocks was awesome.
I've been on the Van Ginkel train since his days at Wisconsin, my man. And let me tell you, you guys are getting one of the more underrated pass rushers, I think, dude. He gets back there, man. He causes some havoc, dude.
And with Flores, he loves bringing the house.
The flow just
it's beautiful.
Coming around the corner.
It's like seeing Thor in a football
helmet. This is what happens when we get to at the end of hour 2.
This is
free agency. This is free agency.
This is where the fun begins.
Getting to the nitty-gritty deals here at the end. The guys under 20 million total value. The Giants, they got their Saquon replacement. They signed Texans running back Devin Singletary, 3 years, $16.5 million, $19.5 million max. Sure. He ain't Saquon, I can tell you that. Totally different skill set for Devin Singletary. But productive season in Houston, and sure, go ahead, Giants.
Why not?
The Bears getting a safety to replace Eddie Jackson, I guess. They signed Eagles safety Kevin Byard, 2 years, $15 million deal. Sure. I mean, he was absolutely horrendous with the Eagles. So
honestly, this makes a lot more sense than the Swift signing.
Yeah. But again, though, like the Bears are a team that I feel like should be signing the younger guys. Kevin Byard's over 30, and he's touted kind of at this point in his career, like when he got traded to the Eagles, it was because the Eagles were like, well, for one, we need safety, and for two, this guy we think is a guy that is a veteran that could push us over and help us go win a Super Bowl. And the Bears are not like at that point right now. So signing veterans is kind of, iffy, especially a guy that's declined so much as Byard has. The Bengals also getting a safety. They signed Ravens safety Geno Stone, 2 years, $15 million deal as well. I like that one a lot better. Geno Stone, I was kind of surprised that he didn't get that much money in free agency. I thought he would get a solid deal. Guy that's been kind of under the radar in Baltimore, had a bunch of interceptions, though, the last couple of seasons. And Cincinnati steals one from the division rival there.
Yeah, solid signing. I think he's an underrated guy.
The Giants got their other starting guard, presumably, from the Raiders, signing guard Jermaine Illuminor, 2 years, $14 million deal there for the G-men. So just like the Rams, Giants getting 2 guards, but lot less money total than the Rams got their two guys at. But, Illuminor's a guy that's never been too flashy, but he's has some guard tackle flexibility there throughout his career. So. The Cardinals, another defensive signing here for Coach Gannon, signing Patriots linebacker Mac Wilson, 3 years, $12.75 million, $15 million max deal there. I don't have too much to say about Mac Wilson, but any defensive help for Arizona right now is much appreciated. Couple signings for the Jags here. Bills center Mitch Morse, 2 years, $10.5 million, $7 million guaranteed. And they also signed Ravens wide receiver Devin Duvernay, 2 years, $8.5 million, $12.5 million max value. I like both of those signings a lot. Mitch Morse, the Jags needed a center, so maybe now they can move away from. We had them taking Jackson Powers Johnson in our mock today. Maybe they can focus on another position. Corner comes to mind for Jacksonville in the first round now. The Devin Duvernay thing, love that. He's going to up their special teams play, one of the best returners in the NFL, as well as, give them maybe a couple 100 yards in the receiving game as well. Texans, they signed corner Jeff Okudah, 1 year, $4.75 million deal, $6 million max, $2.5 million guaranteed there for Okudah. Played pretty decent with the Falcons last year. Texans have been kind of trying to look for a guy to pair opposite Derek Stingley there, so why not take a flyer on Okudah, former top 5 pick. And I told Jimmy I was going to say it, but I surpassed him in the numbers value when I got to these last couple. Or actually, no, I just passed him. Yeah, a couple. Anyways, the Commanders getting a running back. They signed Chargers running back Austin Eckler, 2 years, $11.43 million deal. And that's an interesting one, to say the least. How much does Eckler have left? Though he does reunite with his former head coach, Anthony Lynn, now the, I believe, assistant head coach in Washington, run game coordinator, something like that. I don't know. He's not a Viking, though, Jimmy.
Yeah, don't care. Who gives a shit, right?
Anyways. We talked about the Steelers already, but just the compensation update for Russell Wilson, $1.2 million this on a 1-year deal there, vet minimum salary. Excellent deal for Pittsburgh. He gets a cha-ching too.
So what is the Pittsburgh equivalent of Broncos country? What's ride? Is it like Steelers Nation? What's Weld?
Our guy Danny Potter, yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
Hell yeah, way to go, Danny.
Yeah, he sent that to me when the Wilson stuff first was coming out. But yeah, Steelers Nation, let's Weld. Sure, why not? Will
this be the first year Mike Tomlin does not finish over 500?
No, it will not be. No.
He's going to go 9-8, and you're going to like it.
No. 10-7. That's cool.
9-7-1.
The Jags, they signed Packer safety Darnell Savage to a 3-year deal. I didn't see the numbers update on that one. I don't know if you have it, Logan, but yeah, Darnell going to Jacksonville.
I do not have it, but I think it's a decent signing for them. Savage, he's just kind of shown flashes. And I think he's a really good athlete who just kind of never put it together in terms of, I don't know, especially in the run game. I think he took some bad angles, but I think in a new place, new scheme, it could maybe be good for him.
Yeah, paired him with Rayshon Jenkins down there. How about your Packers? We already kind of talked about it, but just to get the most money up here, the Packers signing Raiders running back Josh Jacobs, 4 years, $48 million, $12.5 million guaranteed there. Like you said, same exact deal. Aaron Jones signed a 4-year, $48 million, $13 million guaranteed, but younger than Aaron Jones. Maybe that was it. That was the factor.
Yeah. My thing is that Jacobs actually has more career carries than than Aaron Jones. So I feel like even though he's 3 years younger, it's kind of a wash in terms of running back years. If you want to get into that, kind of tread on the tires and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I have very mixed emotions about it. I like Josh Jacobs as a player. I think he's a really good running back, and I think it's going to be kind of fun to see him in green and gold. But I just don't know when you factor in Aaron Jones's leadership, team chemistry, just kind of what he meant to that locker room, and the fact that the deals are similar. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like at best a lateral move. That I don't know if it was necessary.
Yeah, especially talk about the number of carries. Especially you can go back even to college. Jacobs was a big volume back at Alabama. UTEP, where Aaron Jones went, I don't know the career numbers, but I don't believe he was as utilized at UTEP there. The Raiders have a quarterback, signing Colts quarterback Gardner Minshew. 2 years, $25 million, $15 million fully guaranteed there for the mustache. And yeah, I mean, he's certified grade A bridge quarterback. So why not?
Yeah, I was really hoping the Vikings would get him. He was my favorite bridge quarterback currently on the market. So losing out on him, seeing him go down to the Raiders, just a little bit upsetting.
Jimmy, what happens when the training camp QB room is Justin Fields and JJ McCarthy?
There's not enough, there's not enough bleach in my kitchen right now. I mean, I'm trying to warm up to McCarthy. I wouldn't mind him, but it's just there's like
and Jaron Hall.
Stop.
That's true. That's disrespect. Yeah, you're right. I forgot.
Hey, at least you didn't say Sam fucking Darnold and Zach Wilson.
I think they should trade for Zach. I think he'd look good in Vikings purple.
Oh no, please stop.
All right, let's go to another one here. Former Viking here, the Lions signing Vikings defensive end Marcus Davenport, 1 year, $6.5 million, $10.5 million max value. I love it. I love that for Detroit. Excellent value signing. They're trying to find anyone they can to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. So I think that's a great deal for Brad Holmes there.
As someone that's had to deal with Marcus Davenport all season, can he stay on the field for once? Knowing our luck, he's absolutely playing all 17 regular season games plus playoffs for the Lions. He's having like 4 sacks in 2 games against the Vikings because, F us, right? That's kind of correct. Like, I was joking with my brother today. It's like Davenport's going to have like a comeback player of the year season and Kirk Cousins is going to win the Super Bowl because screw us, right? Just screw us. That's the kind of crap that the Vikings, that Vikings fans have to deal with when it comes to guys leaving the team.
Another one that just came out here, the Dolphins signing Seahawks linebacker Jordan Brooks, 3 years, $30 million. That one I thought was very thought-provoking because they released Jerome Baker. Now, I like it. I do like the signing. Love it. Because Jordan Brooks, I think that was the biggest issue. Jerome Baker, his pass coverage wasn't there. He was more of a two-down guy, run stuffer. But Jordan Brooks has the speed, and he's been excellent throughout his career in Seattle. Big issue on the back end of that, though. Seattle, Bobby Wagner also testing free agency, so they lost both of their starting linebackers. But love it for Miami, though. And I think the value is there for Jordan Brooks for the Dolphins.
Yeah. I mean, they lost a couple defenders. At least they can get some back.
I thought y'all would be more excited about Jordan Brooks than I am.
I mean, a former first-round pick that is solid, but it's hard to say anything like spectacular about the guy. Again, he's good, but again, it's just he never felt like he fit perfectly in Seattle. Maybe a change in scenery would help, but I don't know. It's hard to get excited about Brooks.
How about the Titans getting a center, signing Broncos center Lloyd Cushenberry, 4 years, $50 million, $30 million guaranteed there in Tennessee. Now, this one makes a lot more sense than Tony Pollard. A lot more sense. The Titans needed some help on the O-line. They got it in Lloyd Cushenberry. Not a top-end center, but a guy that's been pretty consistent with Denver, and Tennessee gets a guy to help out Will Levis this year. The Gus bus is on the move. Wonder how long it takes for the bus to travel from Baltimore to LA, but 2-year deal with the Chargers there. He is the Austin Eckler replacement in LA. One Harbaugh to another. Who would have thought? But, I mean, I'd be interested to know what the numbers are. It can't be that big. I can tell you that. I'm not going to make a "that's what she said" joke, but woo! Anyways, I think it's an interesting signing. Gus isn't a 3-down guys goal line type of back that can be a first and second down. Doesn't give you anything in the receiving game. So, sure.
All right, boys, I got to hop off. See ya.
All right. A couple more signings here. The Commanders signing another Cowboy, center Tyler Biadasz. I know kind of soured on him in Dallas. A little bit of a decline there, but Dan Quinn knows him best, so, why not?
Why not?
And they needed a center. Was one of their needs on O-line. The Eagles, they signed Saints linebacker Zach Bond to a 1-year deal. I love that. I really liked Zach Bond coming out of Wisconsin. He's going to be a situational pass rusher, I think, and also play some off-ball linebacker, which they need some help at. So the Patriots, they signed Commanders running back Antonio Gibson. That was interesting. The Patriots always have a million running backs, and they just added another one to Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris. So it's a perplexing move for New England, I think. Yeah, so they have Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson. I guess Damian Harris is a... Oh, yeah, he signed with the Bills last year. I forgot. But Zeke's a free agent, so. The Texans, they signed Titans defensive lineman Danico Autry. Love that for Houston. Sheldon Rankins is a free agent. They lost Jonathan Greenard and Danico Autry, good 5-tech they can play on that D-line there, who, although he is old, 34 years old currently, but still can get it done there. The Steelers, they signed Texans punter Cameron Johnston. Love that. They released Presley Harvin, needed a punter. Cam Johnston has been an awesome player throughout his career. I was so mad when the Eagles let him walk in free agency a couple years ago, was with the Texans for a couple years, and now comes back to Pennsylvania with the Steelers. So love that signing. And then the final one here, the Dolphins. They signed Browns linebacker Anthony Walker. So there you go. Dolphins get 2 linebackers today. Pretty solid players on both fronts, can move well, especially in pass coverage. So I think that's a good job for Chris Greer there in Miami. And I know it's been a long show, and you're probably going to leave once.
Yeah, I got another show at 7, so I got to go. I got to take care of some things. You have fun with the Fun Belt.
Yeah.
Let's just say my Texas State boys got screwed. Should have been 12-0. Just saying.
This year. Yeah, so lastly here, now that we're done with free agency, let's talk about how wrong I was on the Sun Belt, because I was pretty wrong. It's bad. A lot of surprises here that I didn't see coming. I had Coastal Carolina winning the conference at 10-2. Now, the Chanticleers did end up going 7-5. Disappointing season, though, finishing 3rd in the Sun Belt East Division. I just thought Grayson McCall was the best quarterback in the conference. Thought he would do really great things this year. Got injured, though, was never the same, and the Chants kind of fell off because of that. Troy, I was correct on them a little bit. So they ended up going 11-1, though. 9-3 for me. They did finish 2nd in the Sun Belt, which is where I had them as the runners-up, the winners of the West Division. But, the Trojans, excellent season. Another one from Gunnar Watson there. Knew they were going to be good again, especially in the West, which doesn't really offer a lot of competition outside of South Alabama. But good season for the Trojans. App State, 9-3 for me. They actually no, the Troy went 10-2. My bad, 10-2. So I was 1 game off on them. App State, though, going 8-4. So 1 game under where I had them. I had them going 9-3. They did end up being technically the runners up there. Troy won the conference. My bad. But anyways, App State, pretty solid season. 1 game under where I had them. As technically the runners up in the East Division, but because of JMU's ineligibility this year, they were in the Sun Belt Championship game. South Alabama, I had as my 4th team at 8-4. The Jaguars ended up going 6-6. So under where I thought they would be. Carter Bradley returned last year. Thought he would improve the Jaguars on the offensive side of the ball. Not to be, though, 6-6 there for USA. Raging Cajuns, Louisiana, I had them going 7-5. They underperformed a little bit, 6-6 there. I thought they would be pretty solid. They usually are. Just 1 game under where I had them, though. Texas State, the Bobcats, really impressed. DJ Kinney, his first season, knew they were going to be good. based off his previous stops, especially at Incarnate Word, what he did with Lindsey Scott there. Had TJ Finley as his quarterback mainly this year. A lot of high-scoring affairs. However, they ended up 7-5, one game above where I had them at 6-6. So excellent season there, finishing second in the West Division. Georgia State, I had them at 6-6. That is exactly what they did, I believe. Yeah. Excellent season from Marcus Carroll there, the running back for the Panthers, but knew they were kind of going to be middle of the pack, ending up 5th in the East Division there. Won 6th to last in the conference, so right in the middle where I have them. USM, Southern Miss. I had them going 5-7. They underperformed 3-9. I thought Frank Gore Jr. was going to elevate this team to just short of bowl eligibility. Wasn't to be. The Eagles, really just poor season there in Southern Miss. JMU was the surprise of the conference for me. I had them going 5-7. I just did not think they were going to be able to consistently keep winning with the amount of losses they had on the offensive side of the ball. However, Jordan McLeod turned in an excellent season under Kurt Signetti. And JMU essentially won the conference. They got to a bowl game because of some of the bowl eligibility rules, even though they were technically ineligible. They weren't able to play in the Sun Belt Championship game, which I think they probably would have won. But they did end up getting to a bowl game, losing to Air Force, but 11-1 for the Dukes last year. And I think they're going to continue doing that, even though with the coaching change this season. Georgia Southern, I had them 5-7. They ended up one game above that at 6-6. The other Eagles in the division, pretty solid year for Gasso, but yeah, I was just a little short of where they ended up. I had Marshall going 4-8. They were also another 6-6 team, part of the solid East division that everyone made a bowl appearance. All 7 teams there. The Herd, I just didn't think they were going to be as good. Cam Fanter was fantastic this year. Looking for another solid season coming up in 24 for him. Arkansas State, I did not see them going 6-6 like they did, man. I had them 3-9. Arkansas State, usually not very good, but James Blackman had a good season and got the Red Wolves to a bowl game. The shock, other than JMU, the other shock of the conference this year was Old Dominion. The Monarchs had an excellent season going 6-6 and becoming bowl eligible, finishing 4th in the East Division. I had them going 1-11. I just did not see anything happening with the Monarchs this season. They surprised me and shocked everyone, I think, getting to a bowl game. Now, ULM, they did finish last in the division, but they did win one more game than I thought they were going to. I had them going 1-11. They actually ended up 2-10 there, finishing last in the division where I had them placed. Now, before we end the show here, there were a couple other free agency signings here. The Texans taking another Titan away. They signed Titans linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair to a 3-year, $34 million deal. Al-Shaair has been an excellent player for Tennessee over the last couple of years. Really has worked into a sideline-to-sideline type of player there. And hopefully he can replace Blake Cashman in the middle of that Houston defense. The Patriots also getting a deal done, an excellent one at that, re-signing offensive tackle Michael Onwenu, 3 years, $57 million, $38 million guaranteed, $22.5 million signing bonus. That's a really solid value for New England, and I think the Patriots are very happy to have him back, even with losing Trent Brown in free agency. Next week, that is the show for today. Next week, we'll be back talking free agency week 2. We'll be back with the second wave of free agency. We'll see how that has panned out at that point. And hopefully we get a show in on Friday this week. Not sure what Jimmy and I are going to do, if we're going to do one in New Orleans or not. But if we do, then we'll be back with the Patriots and Cardinals mock draft as we progress through all 32 teams up until the draft. But we'll also have all your college football, UFL, and NFL news to go along with it. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and XFAA_ bets on X as well. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and TikTok at Football Addicts and Non. Thank y'all for watching, and happy free agency frenzy. We'll see y'all back for Football Friday.